Let me begin by saying something that might shake your soul and stir your spirit. You didn't choose the calling chose you. You didn't knock on the door opened before you even knew how to walk. You're not here by accident, coincidence, or human planning. You were appointed by divine authority from a divine realm for a divine reason. Chosen one. It's time to tell you everything. You didn't choose the calling chose you. That truth alone should shake something deep in your spirit. Before you had a name, before your mother knew she was pregnant, before your voice ever echoed in this world, there was a purpose that already knew your footsteps. You didn't walk into destiny. Destiny walked into you. You didn't discover purpose. Purpose discovered you. You were not born to wander. You were born for a divine assignment that had your name etched into it long before time had language. You didn't apply for this. You didn't fill out a form. There was no voting committee. No jury of people taking a poll to see if you were worthy enough to be chosen. God Himself selected you. It was not a democratic process. It was a heavenly decree. This is where many of us struggle. We think calling is about desire. We think it's about ambition, passion, or even talent. But purpose is not something you chase. It's something that arrests you. You don't pursue it because it makes you feel good. You pursue it because it won't let you sleep. It won't let you be comfortable in average places doing average things. That's how you know you've been chosen. Not because everything is easy, but because nothing feels right unless you're walking in what God ordained. You felt the pull in your spirit. You've tried to ignore it. You've tried to silence it with distractions, delay, even disobedience. But it won't go away. Because when God calls you, He doesn't take His word back. The gifts and callings of God are irrevocable. You may run from it, you may mess up, you may even say, God, pick someone else. But the anointing knows your address. The purpose will chase you down. It will whisper to you in your quiet moments. It will thunder inside you in your storms. And even when life breaks you, that calling will still be alive inside. The pieces. The enemy knows this. That's why he's been after you. That's why the warfare has been intense. That's why you've battled thoughts that try to disqualify you. The devil wasn't afraid of you just existing. He's afraid of you awakening. Because the moment you wake up to the reality that you didn't choose this, God chose you, that's the moment you walk into authority. And the enemy loses his grip. Let's make something clear. You didn't earn this. You weren't picked because you were the strongest, the smartest, or the most gifted. You were picked because God saw something in you that no one else could see. And because He's the Creator, what He sees is not based on your present, it's based on the finished version of you. While others see the broken vessel, God sees the overflowing cup. While others see your past, God sees your assignment. So you keep doubting yourself, looking at your flaws, measuring yourself against people you think are more called. But God already made the decision. You didn't choose it. The calling chose you. And when something chooses you, it clings to you. It wraps itself around your very being. You start to realize, this is why I never fit in. This is why I couldn't settle. This is why certain rooms made me restless. This is why rejection didn't destroy me, it directed me. Everything that didn't work out wasn't meant to crush you, it was meant to clarify you. Because you were never supposed to be comfortable in places that weren't tied to your calling. Even your pain was on purpose. The hurt, the betrayal, the seasons of silence, none of it was wasted. You think those moments disqualified you, but they were actually qualifying you. God was pruning your heart, humbling your spirit, preparing your character to carry the weight of the glory He planned for you. It wasn't about punishment, it was preparation. You were being forged in fire, not forgotten in silence. There are some people around you who won't understand this. They'll look at you and say, "Why you? Why now?" But you need to understand, this was never a decision made on earth. This was settled in the heavens. People don't have to approve it. They don't have to understand it. They don't even have to support it. Because they didn't call you, God did. And when God calls, He calls completely. He doesn't just call your gift, He calls your pain. He calls your past. He calls every broken, insecure, fragile part of you, and still says, "I can use that." That's what makes His call so powerful. It doesn't require perfection. It only requires surrender. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to say yes. That yes is costly. That yes will stretch you. That yes will isolate you. But that yes will also launch you. Because once you say yes to the one who chose you, everything begins to align. The resources come, the clarity comes, the strength comes. Not because you're doing it in your power, but because you're now operating in divine alignment. The kingdom backs you. Heaven backs you. Angels war for you. Doors opened for you, not because you pushed them, but because you were sent to them. This is why you can't afford to live small. You can't afford to keep doubting yourself, minimizing your voice, shrinking in rooms God called you to command. You are not an extra in someone else's story. You are not a shadow in someone else's spotlight. You are chosen not to compete, but to conquer. The time has come for you to embrace the truth fully, without hesitation or fear. You didn't choose this calling. The calling chose you. And if it chose you, it means God trusted you. Not just with the victory, but with the journey. Not just with the platform, but with the process. Not just with the gift, but with the responsibility that comes with it. And now, after all the battles, the delays, the questions, the wandering, the calling is still here, still waiting, still burning, still speaking. And it's asking you one thing. Will you answer? When God makes a decision, it's not up for debate. Heaven doesn't hold elections. The throne of God is not surrounded by advisors whispering suggestions. There are no approval ratings in the kingdom. When God speaks, it becomes law. When God decrees, it becomes reality. There is no committee, no board of men, no panel of critics. His word is final because He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. So when He decides, that decision doesn't need confirmation from man. It only needs obedience from you. This is where the chosen often stumble. We get caught up in the noise of opinions. We start to measure the divine calling by human reactions. We let rejection shake our confidence and let silence make us question our worth. But here's the truth. God doesn't need to explain Himself to people who were never part of your assignment. He doesn't need permission from your critics to bless you. He doesn't need validation from your family to elevate you. When God decides, the decision is already done. It's not on trial. It's not pending approval. It's settled. You were not chosen because you were voted in by man. You were chosen because you were ordained by God. That means your destiny is not hanging in the balance, waiting on people to catch up. You don't need the right name, the right background, or the right connections. You just need the right God. And He already decided. That decision wasn't based on your popularity, but your purpose. It wasn't based on how many people clapped for you, but on how heaven assigned you. Think about the greats in the Word. When God chose David, no one in his family voted for him. His own father didn't even think he was worth inviting to the meeting. But God bypassed every brother, every opinion, and said, "That's the one." When God chose Gideon, Gideon was hiding in fear, calling himself the least of the least. But God didn't care about his self-perception. He had already made the decision. And when God picked Mary, a teenage girl from an ordinary town, to carry the Son of God, nobody around her voted for that either. But what did the angel say? "You have found favor with God." Not man, God. And that favor was enough to ignite destiny. We've been trained to think we need applause to move, that unless people support us, we must not be ready. But let me tell you, some of the loudest silence comes right before the biggest shift. Just because no one claps doesn't mean you're not called. Just because they don't see it doesn't mean it's not settled. Their opinion is not your confirmation. Their support is not your signal. God is His decision is your permission. Some people won't support you simply because they didn't choose you. They can't understand how someone like you could be used by God without their approval. But you must remember, they didn't call you. They didn't see what God saw. They weren't there when heaven released the blueprint of your life. They didn't hear the conversation between the Father and your future. So their opinion, while loud, is irrelevant. What matters is who made the decision. God doesn't base His choices on your qualifications. He bases them on His intention, and His intention is eternal. It was never based on the temporary opinions of people. In fact, sometimes God will intentionally choose someone the world has disqualified just to show that He is God. He will place greatness in those the world calls ordinary. He will raise up voices from unexpected places. He will pull leaders out of brokenness, strength out of struggle, and glory out of ashes. Why? Because He wants to make it clear this was His decision. You've been waiting for people to see you, to recognize you, to validate what's in you. But can I tell you the truth? Some people will never see you correctly because they weren't meant to understand your assignment. You are carrying something that is divine, and the carnal mind cannot comprehend the things of the Spirit. They look at your present and can't grasp your future. They measure your past and can't believe your promise. But God doesn't consult your past to plan your destiny. He doesn't ask people for feedback when He decides who to use. The sooner you realize that God's decision is above all else, the freer you will be. Free from people pleasing. Free from insecurity. Free from the fear of man. Free from needing confirmation every step of the way. Free from second guessing what you know God already told you. Because when He speaks, His word doesn't return void. It accomplishes exactly what He intended. That means if He said you're chosen, then no rejection can unchoose you. If He said you're anointed, then no attack can cancel your anointing. If He said it's time, then no delay can deny it. There will be people who don't believe in you, and that's okay. They're not your source. There will be doors that close in your face, and that's okay too. God opens doors no man can shut. There will be moments where everything in the natural says, you're not ready, you're not worthy. But in those moments, remind yourself, God already decided. He already looked at your weakness and said, I can work with that. He already examined your past and said, that won't stop me. He already saw your future and said, that's exactly who I need. Don't shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. Don't water down your calling to match their expectations. Don't delay your movement because they can't comprehend your mission. Move with confidence, not arrogance, but kingdom confidence. The kind of boldness that only comes from knowing that heaven has your back. The kind of faith that's not dependent on applause, but is anchored in the voice of God. What God decides, He protects. What God ordains, He provides for. What God starts, He finishes. And when He says go, you don't wait for man's green light. You walk in obedience, knowing that even if the world says no, God's yes is greater. Even if they shut you out, He will set you up. Even if they count you out, He's already counted you in. So stop waiting for approval. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Stop waiting for everyone to believe in you. The decision has already been made. Heaven already stamped your name. You're not moving in ambition. You're moving in obedience. And obedience to God's decision is the highest level of power you'll ever walk in. God never asked you to be perfect. He only asked you to surrender. The weight of the calling was never meant to rest on your ability to perform. It was always meant to rest on your willingness to yield. Perfection is a trap that many chosen ones fall into, thinking that in order to be used by God, they have to be flawless, polished, sinless, and without weakness. But if that were true, none of the people God used throughout history would have qualified. Not Moses with his speech issues and his temper, not Peter with his denial, not Paul with his past as a persecutor, not David with his failures. Yet God called them, not because they were perfect, but because they surrendered. We live in a world that idolizes perfection. From social media filters to curated personalities, everyone wants to look the part, but God is not impressed by image. He's after heart. He's not calling the most put together. He's calling the most surrendered. That's why some of the most powerful voices won't come from platforms. They'll come from prayer closets. That's why some of the most impactful vessels will be the ones who've been through hell, made mistakes, cried in silence, and still whispered, God, use me anyway. Surrender is not about having it all together. It's about giving God access to what you do have. Even if it's broken, even if it's weak, even if it's confused. Surrender says, God, I don't know how this will work, but I'm giving it to you anyway. My hands are off. My plans are surrendered. My past is yours. My future is yours. I won't fight this anymore. I won't run anymore. I'm tired of trying to be perfect. I just want to be obedient. That's where power starts. Not in perfection, but in obedience. God's not looking for the strongest, He's looking for the surrendered. Because a surrendered heart becomes a divine instrument. It becomes a place where His glory can dwell, His will can flow, and His presence can rest. The enemy knows this. That's why he tries so hard to convince you that you're not good enough. He keeps replaying your past like a highlight reel. He whispers lies like, how can God use someone like you? But the enemy is a liar, because it's not about you. It's about the one who called you. What God calls, He equips. What He chooses, He cleanses. What He anoints, He transforms. You may have come to Him one way, but you won't stay that way. Surrender doesn't mean you stay broken. It means you give Him permission to rebuild you from the inside out. It means you let go of control. You lay down your pride. You stop trying to look anointed and actually start being anointed by simply saying yes to Him. You stop trying to earn grace and start walking in it. God didn't choose you because you were flawless. He chose you because you were available. He saw that even in your pain, even in your rebellion, even in your fear, there was a yes buried deep in your spirit. And He said, I can work with that. The world chooses based on perfection. God chooses based on potential. The world says you're too broken. God says you're just right. The world says you've got too much baggage. God says, let me carry it. The world says you need to clean yourself up first. God says, come as you are, and I'll do the cleaning. And when you surrender, you begin to realize that everything you thought disqualified you is exactly what God will use to qualify you. That pain you tried to hide, He'll use it to reach others. That failure that haunted you, He'll turn it into a message. That season of silence where you thought God left you, that was your preparation ground. Surrender turns your scars into testimonies. It turns your weakness into weapons. It turns your nothing into something. Because when you give Him everything, He can turn anything. Don't let perfectionism paralyze you. Don't wait until you feel worthy to say yes. Worthiness is not a prerequisite for obedience. Obedience produces transformation. God doesn't expect you to be spotless before He uses you. He expects you to trust Him. And when you do, you'll see what grace really looks like. You'll understand that His strength is made perfect in your weakness, not in your strength. You'll begin to walk differently, not in arrogance, but in holy confidence. Because you know it's not about how good you are, it's about how good He is. That's the beautiful paradox of being chosen. You're fully aware of your flaws, but you say yes anyway. You know your story isn't clean, but you surrender it. You know you're not the most qualified, but you show up. And in that obedience, God shows Himself strong. Because the glory was never supposed to go to you. It was always supposed to point back to Him. The more surrendered you are, the more clearly people can see Him through you. They won't say, look how perfect they are. They'll say, look how powerful their God is. There's something unstoppable about a surrendered vessel. You may not have the loudest voice, the biggest platform, or the longest resume, but you've got fire in your spirit. You've got oil on your life. You've got a yes that shakes the kingdom of darkness. Because surrendered people are dangerous to the enemy. They don't move for applause. They don't need a stage. They don't care about being seen. They just want to obey. They just want to pour. They just want to glorify the one who picked them when no one else did. And if that's you, if you've been wrestling with feeling unworthy, if you've been thinking God made a mistake when He chose you, this is your moment to let all of that go. You are not called because you are perfect. You are called because you are willing. You are not anointed because you earned it. You are anointed because you received it. You are not moving forward because of your strength. You are moving forward because of your surrender. So lift your head, take a deep breath, and surrender again and again and again. Every day, surrender. Every time fear creeps in, surrender. Every time shame knocks, surrender. Every time you feel unqualified, surrender. Because that's where He meets you. Not in your perfection, but in your yes. There is a strange and sacred thing that happens to the chosen. Right after the call, before the doors open, before the favor flows, before the oil starts running publicly, comes the isolation, the silence, the stripping, the loneliness. The season where it feels like everyone forgot you, like God turned down the volume on your life. No crowds, no applause, no invitations. Just you, your thoughts, and the still voice of the Spirit. And if you don't understand the purpose of isolation, you'll begin to question your calling. You start to think something went wrong, but nothing went wrong. Something just went right. You've been marked, and God is separating you before He elevates you. How separation is God's ancient method of preparing a chosen one. When God sets someone apart for something great, He does it in private. He pulls them out of the familiar. He disrupts their rhythm. He breaks their patterns. He removes the crutches. And while the world may call it rejection, heaven calls it positioning. God doesn't isolate you to punish you. He isolates you to protect and process you. He does it because what's on your life can't be mixed with the average. You're not called to blend in. You're called to stand out. You're not meant to walk like everybody else. You're not built for shallow places. You've been marked for depth, and depth requires separation. God will separate you from voices that distract you, relationships that drain you, environments that limit you, and even versions of yourself that no longer serve your future. And when He does, it can feel like abandonment, but it's not. It's refinement. He's sharpening you. He's detoxing your soul from public pressure. He's teaching you how to hear Him and not just hear noise. In the isolation, God starts to expose things in you that can't go with you. Pride, fear, insecurity, people-pleasing, broken identity. He doesn't hide them, He reveals them. Not to shame you, but to free you. Because when He elevates you, there won't be time to heal wounds you didn't let Him address in private. Look at every person God used mightily. Before the platform came the process. Before the voice came the valley. Before the mantle came the moments where nobody knew their name. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he led a nation out of bondage. Joseph was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and locked in a prison before he was promoted to the palace. David was anointed king but sent back to the field. Jesus Himself disappeared into obscurity for 30 years before He turned the world upside down in 3. Why? Because isolation is heaven's classroom. It's where faith is forged. It's where identity is clarified. It's where the noise dies so destiny can speak. The problem is we often misinterpret isolation as rejection. We look at our phones and see no calls and think we're forgotten. We see doors not opening and assume we've failed. We look at the silence and think God is mad. But silence is not absence, it's intimacy. God doesn't speak less in isolation. He just speaks differently. He whispers instead of shouting. And the reason He whispers is because He wants you close. You won't hear a whisper from a distance. You've got to lean in. You've got to tune your spirit. He's training your ear to recognize His voice above all others. Because where He's taking you, there will be noise, opinions, praise, and criticism. And if you don't learn to hear Him now, you'll be led by applause later. Some of the most powerful growth happens in the most hidden places. You may not have a platform, but you have a prayer life. You may not be surrounded by fans, but you're surrounded by favor. You may not be invited to the room, but you're being called to the throne. You're not losing, you're incubating. You're not being overlooked, something that the world isn't ready for yet, something the enemy can't predict, something that has to be born in the secret place before it's revealed in public. Don't curse the isolation, bless it. Embrace it. Let it do its work. Let it carve you. Let it cleanse you. Let it confront what needs to die so what needs to live can rise. You're not in a prison. You're in preparation. God has pressed pause not to punish you but to preserve you. He's making sure that when He releases you, you're not just talented but trustworthy. Not just visible but stable. Not just gifted but grounded. Because what you carry is too costly to be rushed. And what He's building in you takes time. You may not see the fruit right away. You may wonder if it's even worth it. You may question everything. But trust this, God knows what He's doing. His isolation is intentional. He sees the end from the beginning. He's not just preparing you for the blessing, He's preparing you to survive it. Because elevation without character is a trap. Exposure without depth is a danger. But when He separates you, it's because He intends to establish you. This season of silence is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of favor. You've been selected to be set apart. You've been chosen for consecration. And consecration doesn't happen in crowds. It happens in caves, in quiet moments, in uncomfortable places. So if you feel like nobody sees you, good. That means God has you. That means you're not distracted by fans. That means your foundation is being laid in truth, not trends. And when the time comes, and He brings you out of this hidden season, the world won't understand the oil on your life, but you will. Because you paid the price in the dark. You bled behind the scenes. You said yes when no one was watching. You stayed faithful when nothing was moving. And that is why the isolation is confirmation. God separates what He's about to send. He hides what He's about to heal. He silences what He's about to speak through. And if you've been feeling like God has pulled you away, trust Him. He's just getting ready to push you forward. God doesn't operate by human standards. He doesn't use the same checklist that people use when they're looking for someone to elevate, empower, or entrust with something great. When people choose, they look at credentials, achievements, and outward appearance. They look for experience, for polish, for people who seem like they have it all together. But God looks at the heart. He looks for surrender. He looks for availability. Because God never needed you to be qualified in the eyes of men. He only needed you to be chosen by Him. And when God chooses you, He takes full responsibility for your preparation. This is the upside down truth of the kingdom. God often picks the most unlikely people to do the most extraordinary things. He doesn't wait until they have everything figured out. He doesn't hold back until their resume is impressive. He calls them right in the middle of their mess. He interrupts ordinary lives with extraordinary purpose. He takes broken vessels, flawed voices, trembling hands, and uncertain minds, and He fills them with power, boldness, and clarity. Because when people look at someone like that and see them walking in purpose, the only explanation left is God. The world says, prove yourself, then you'll be picked. But God says, I'll pick you, and then I'll prove myself through you. That's why the most dangerous thing you can do is doubt God's choice. If He called you, He already knew what you lacked. He already knew what you didn't bring to the table. He already knew what you struggled with, what you feared, what you failed at. And He called you anyway, because your deficiencies are not a disqualification. They are the stage for His glory. He doesn't choose the qualified. He qualifies the chosen. Think of Gideon, hiding in fear, doubting his worth, calling himself the least in his family, and yet the angel called him mighty warrior. Why? Because heaven sees differently. Heaven doesn't speak to your insecurity, it speaks to your destiny. Heaven doesn't echo what you believe about yourself, it declares what God ordained over your life before you were born. God knew Gideon was scared, but he also knew Gideon had a yes in him. That was enough. And when Gideon finally accepted the call, he didn't go in his own strength, he went in God's. Look at Jeremiah, a young man who said, I am only a child, I don't know how to speak. But God didn't change his mind because of Jeremiah's excuses. He said, do not say, I am only a youth. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. And then he touched Jeremiah's mouth and put his words there. What does that tell us? God doesn't need you to already have the skill. He just needs your yes, and he'll supply the rest. If he calls you to speak, he'll give you the words. If he calls you to lead, he'll give you the wisdom. If he calls you to build, he'll give you the blueprint. What you don't have now, he will develop in you through the process. But here's the catch. God often qualifies you in ways you don't expect. His training ground doesn't always look like a classroom. Sometimes it looks like failure. Sometimes it looks like wilderness. Sometimes it looks like rejection. But those moments aren't working against you. They're working for you. That heartbreak, it softened your heart. That betrayal, it sharpened your discernment. That season of lack taught you to rely on God. The very things that seem to disqualify you are the same things that prepared you for the weight of the calling. Because God isn't building you for applause, He's building you for assignment. He's not trying to make you impressive. He's trying to make you impactful. He's not interested in how much you know. He's interested in how much you trust. Because when He sends you out, it won't be your degrees that change lives. It won't be your accolades that break chains. It'll be His Spirit moving through a surrendered vessel. The enemy trembles not at the qualified, but at the chosen who've been qualified by fire, by crushing, by obedience. You might be wondering, but how do I know I'm really chosen? The fact that you feel unworthy is often the proof, because those who are truly chosen don't walk with entitlement, they walk with trembling. They don't boast in themselves, they boast in the Lord. If you've wrestled with the weight of the call, if you've questioned why God would choose someone like you, then you're probably exactly who He wants. Because the proud won't last in this. The proud won't kneel when the pressure comes, but the surrendered will. That's why you've gone through what you've gone through. It wasn't random. It wasn't wasted. It was preparation. God has been qualifying you in secret. Every battle was a lesson. Every loss was a test. Every delay was a divine setup. And now He's saying, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to go. I'm asking you to speak. I'm asking you to move, not because you feel ready, but because I'm with you. Don't let comparison rob you of confidence. Don't look at someone else's path and assume you're not worthy. God didn't clone callings, He crafts them. Your assignment is unique. Your voice is needed. Your story carries weight. You don't need to fit in to be effective. You don't need to be the most polished in the room to carry power. You just need to show up with what you have and trust that God will breathe on it. When He touches your ordinary, it becomes extraordinary. When He anoints your little, it becomes more than enough. This isn't about proving yourself to people. This is about proving your faith to God. He's not impressed by the exterior. He's drawn to the heart. A yielded heart is more valuable than a perfect record. A yes is more powerful than a resume. And obedience is always the proof that you believe you've been chosen. So stop second guessing yourself. Stop letting fear dictate your pace. Stop waiting until you feel ready. You're not called because you're ready. You're ready because you're called. And if God is for you, who can be against you? He didn't bring you this far to abandon you now. The oil on your life didn't come cheaply. The fire you've walked through wasn't for nothing. He's been qualifying you, molding you, breaking things off of you, strengthening you. And now it's time to walk like someone who knows they were sent. There is a lie that creeps in silently but speaks loudly to the soul of the chosen. That you're late, that you missed it, that you're behind where you're supposed to be. This lie is subtle, but it's deadly. It comes when you scroll through timelines and see people doing what you dreamed of. It whispers when your prayers feel delayed, your goals look distant, and your efforts seem unnoticed. It taunts you with questions like, what have you really accomplished? Or why are they moving ahead while you feel stuck? But what you need to hear today is this: you are not behind. You are being aligned. You are not late. You are on divine time. And in the kingdom of God, purpose is never behind schedule. It's always on time. God is not limited by clocks or calendars. He is not rushed by human opinions or pressured by cultural timelines. He doesn't work according to your age, your degree, your job title, or your bank account. He works by alignment. Alignment means He is orchestrating things you can't see, arranging details you don't understand, and preparing places you haven't even imagined. It means the delay you feel is not denial, it's design. God is not holding you back. He's holding you together while He puts everything else in place. And when it's time, no force in hell or on earth can stop the release. One of the most dangerous traps for the chosen is comparison. It creates false urgency. It makes you feel like you're running out of time, that you need to hurry up and perform, that you're falling behind in some invisible race. But the truth is, no one can beat you to your destiny. What's yours is reserved. What's for you has already been written. And God is not going to let you arrive underdeveloped. He loves you too much to let you show up to the palace with a peasant mindset. He's aligning your soul before He aligns your success. He's healing the inner wounds before He hands you outer rewards. Think about how many people rushed ahead and crashed. How many opened doors for themselves only to find out they weren't ready for what waited on the other side. But when God aligns you, He builds you in private so you can stand in public. He strengthens your character, deepens your roots, refines your discernment. He teaches you to hear His voice above the noise, to trust His pace above your pressure, to move by revelation instead of reaction. And this kind of alignment doesn't happen quickly, it happens deeply. Joseph wasn't behind when he was sold into slavery. He wasn't behind when he was falsely accused. He wasn't behind when he was thrown into prison. Every painful moment was alignment. Every setback was actually a setup. God was putting him in position to be in the right place at the right time, to fulfill a dream that had seemed dead. The pit didn't disqualify him, it positioned him. The prison didn't delay him, it trained him. And when the moment came, it all made sense. Pharaoh called, the palace opened, and Joseph stepped into what he had been aligned for all along. You see, divine timing often feels like delay to the impatient heart, but to the surrendered heart it is perfect. It is peace, it is preparation. You are not being punished because it's taking longer than expected. You are being protected. If God gave it to you too soon, it would crush you. If He revealed you too early, they would mishandle you. If He accelerated you before you were aligned, you'd sabotage what was meant to be sacred. So, He waits. Not because He's forgotten, but because He's faithful. Not because you're off course, but because He's crafting the right course. You don't need to see results right away to know God is moving. The seed is still growing even when it's buried. The roots are still stretching even when nothing has broken the surface. God is still shaping you even when it feels quiet. Alignment is not always visible. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes it feels like being overlooked. But heaven's silence is not heaven's absence. God is not inactive. He's intentional. He's adjusting your environment, your relationships, your habits, your thoughts. Because destiny is not just about where you're going, it's about who you're becoming along the way. And let's be honest, some of the delays weren't even God's doing. Some were detours we took by our own decisions, by our own distractions, by following voices instead of vision. But the beauty of God's grace is that He doesn't cancel the call. He recalibrates the path. He takes our missteps and works them into the plan. He reroutes, redeems, and restores. And when you surrender back to Him, He doesn't just forgive the time you lost. He multiplies what's left. He will give you speed after slowness, wisdom after wandering, and favor after frustration. So no, you're not behind. You're right where you need to be for what God is doing in you now. He's aligning you to walk in authority, not anxiety. He's aligning your desires with His will, your timing with His strategy, your steps with His Spirit. Don't rush it. Don't resent it. Learn to rest in it. Because what's coming will require a version of you that's healed, whole, and grounded. And every day you stay surrendered, He is shaping that version. Every prayer, every tear, every silent act of obedience is part of the alignment. You may not feel it, but it's working. Heaven is not ignoring you, it's orchestrating for you. Doors are being crafted that only your voice will unlock. People are being prepared who will be divine connections for your assignment. Resources are being positioned in places you haven't even stepped into yet. And when all of it lines up, your readiness, the season, the opportunity, it will happen so fast, it will feel like everything changed overnight. But you know it didn't. You'll know it was alignment all along. So now, chosen one, hear this not as another motivational message, but as a divine announcement over your life. God decides. Not people, not systems, not the opinions of those who doubted you, not the timeline that the world tried to impose on your destiny. God decides who's called, when they rise, and how they're used. And He decided on you. You were not overlooked, you were hidden. You were not delayed, you were developed. You were not disqualified, you were being qualified through fire, through pressure, through silence. You didn't miss your moment. Your moment is being made ready. And when the time comes, it won't just be a promotion, it will be a divine unveiling. You don't need to convince anyone that you're chosen. You just need to walk like it, speak like it, pray like it, move like it. Because the weight of your purpose is not carried by your perfection, it is carried by your obedience. And every time you say yes to God, you're saying no to fear, to shame, and to the lie that you're not enough. The King has already decided you are chosen, you are aligned, you are called for such a time as this. And now heaven is saying, step forward. You're not too late. You're not too broken. You're not too weak. You are right on time for everything God has written with your name on it. Now rise, not with arrogance, but with anointing. Walk in your calling, not because you earned it, but because God ordained it. You are the evidence that when God decides, no man can stop it. And the world has no idea what's about to be revealed through you.